Broadcasting live from a basic plains on the plane of... Plane. You figure it out. It's TapTapConcede! Hi, everybody. Welcome to another excellent episode of TapTapConcede. Joining me this week, we have Cameron.
Huh?
And Nelson. And me, Kathleen. And you know what? It's a great episode. It's a Q&A episode. Looking at the wrong camera. Fix that. Getting better every day. We're a bunch of professionals here, and because this is a very professional podcast, it's brought to you by a couple of different people. First of all, Card Kingdom. CardKingdom.com is a wonderful kingdom of cards, and if you order from them, you say, loading, ready, run, send to me, button please, you'll get a button, which now says, my deck's power level is yes, which is probably how I would answer that question if somebody asked me what my commander power level was.
Mine would be,
Mine would be like, okay, you're asking that question. What does that mean? Okay, can you look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, somewhere between pre-con and meme.
yeah.
So you may wish to make some changes to your list if you'd like to play for longer than 15 minutes.
Card Kingdom. Fealty will be rewarded with button.
That's true. And if you want to order stuff to play against any kind of combination of commander deck, singles, that sealed product in the States. No, sealed product everywhere. Singles only where sealed product in the States. I know the terms of the deal. I know how things work.
They sell Magic Card.
They sell Magic cards. That's all you need to know. Order from a nice union-run shop. The other thing that we are sponsored by is, of course, you, through the kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com. We literally could not do what we do without you, and we really appreciate it. And, you know, because, God, as you can see, we're barely qualified to do this. At least I am, so thank you so much.
I thought you were about to run us into iambic pentameter for like the rest of the episode, and I was like mildly terrified.
Oh, no. I did not realize I was doing that.
It's okay. It was good.
No.
It's like my dad used to say, if you don't intend to make the pun, it's all right.
Yeah. No, I'm just, there's like, you know, how most people like think of the words before they go to the mouth.
Really?
I've been told people do that, but my brain developed a bypass years ago.
I just think of the idea. I try to like form the point as a like sort of a bright spot made of either words or a picture or something, and then I just kind of like put all the words that I need to down like a Minecraft bridge that you're making that only has one like
Right.
you know,
one
stream, like one continuous line of points.
Yeah, like the language
Rolling out a
center of my
carpet.
brain is just decides like, hey, this is a concept we wish to communicate. Let's outsource this to our mouth.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, and hope for the best.
Yeah, then you get surprised at the end. It's great.
Everyone
Whereas
loves it.
Oh, that turned out better than I expected. Or, oh no.
Yeah.
Did it?
Wait,
Yeah.
this was a job interview.
Side effects. Sometimes people will say things to you like, remember that time you said, and then immediately you're like, nope.
No, absolutely. I'm not qualified to answer that
But
question.
I believe you. If you remember it, it probably happened.
Yeah, if you remember it, I'm sure I was so good. Anyhow, speaking of questions and things that we said, it's time to answer some questions with things that we're going to say, because it's sort of, we're at a point where we're in between. All Will Be One just came out. We had a bunch of news, and then Mom or March of the Machine is coming out in the future. We're all getting our legs under ourselves for the format. I finally went 7-0, or I went 7-2 in a draft.
Awesome.
Finally.
Nice.
Sorry, was that like a first this season? Or?
That was the first this season
Awesome.
to go
There you
7-2.
go.
I have not drafted that much though. I think it's like my fourth draft, but it came on to quick draft, so I can use gold, and I'm a degenerate arena user, and I like to try to go infinite by turning gold into gems.
Of course.
I've never put money into arena.
Oh, good for you. Are you?
Yeah.
Your account is still free to play? Nice.
I still have the $14.99 City of Brass bundle. Well, I did buy it once because I had to buy it for a fam jam, and I got reimbursed.
Okay, that
Right.
doesn't count.
That's
Yeah.
neutral.
Okay.
So I bought some gems, but it's neutral. But I've never put money in since, and I've only done it once. And now I play on the Loading Ready Run account if we fam jam because I don't want to mess up my accounting.
I see. That one time that you got the reimbursement is like, nah, this is like
We're in a gray
it's
area.
messing up my humble brag. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see how far I can go in any game without putting in money.
I'm a few $100 deep on Arena for sure, but when the beta was happening, or right after the last wipe, like the beta involved like wipes where you get your gems back or whatever. I never put any money in before those wipes, but then since the last one of those, I was doing like the maximum value gem buy once a year, which is like
The 100 gems?
which, by the way, every time you talk about this, it's important to point out that like rewarding people for being able to buy a more expensive thing is shitty. Please stop doing it, Wizards. Just make the price of the gems be the same whether you have $5 or $100. You're just punishing kids and people with low income. It's garbage. Anyways, but I would get the gems at the lowest price, and I'd have to do that every year. But then the last couple of years, I've skated by. I think it's been like since 2021 that I've bought in. Yeah, so
Nice.
don't play as much constructed, and you'll be okay.
I play a lot of standard using the decks that I can build out of other things in the wild cards I've opened and stuff in draft.
Nice.
So I have a very small amount of stuff, and then basically I always just hit my dailies. And are my decks good? Sometimes I get out of gold if I play a lot of Magic, but it depends how much time I have.
If you're thinking about like the real win being getting to 7-win drafts and stuff, like those are the most rewarding feelings, then it sort of doesn't matter how well your decks do, because most of the quests don't even require that you win games, right?
Nope, you just have to play.
Yeah.
Although I did win, Mono Black is very good in Standard right now, and I did win an incredibly grindy game, Mono Black v Mono Black, by resolving, as it turns out, the real secret is the third Invoke Despair.
Yep. It's quite a Magic card, Invoke
It is
Despair.
quite a Magic card. I love it.
Which one is Invoke
It's from
Despair?
the Champions of Kamigawa set.
Right.
It's the black one, so it's like 5
Yeah,
black
it's
pips in one. No, 4 black pips in one.
oh,
It's
oh.
5 mana, 4 of which has to be black for a sorcery. It's kind of complicated. It makes your opponent either sacrifice stuff, and if they can't, they lose life and you draw cards.
Okay.
So you don't lose life.
It's very good with Sheldred.
Yeah.
Right,
It's very good with Sheldred,
right.
because then you gain life off drawing the cards too. Also, they're losing life every turn from Sheldred, so it's a burn spell, so those get better.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Baby Cruel ultimatum.
It's a bit like a Baby Cruel ultimatum, yeah.
It's super good if you're playing Mono Black, because it's just, I can cast this as soon as turn 5, right? Like, so you only see it against Mono Black.
There's a bunch of things that are like Cruel ultimatums that aren't Cruel ultimatum. Like there was that overt one from Amon Ket. That was just like, this is the bolus card that you get back if you cast a bolus or something.
Yeah, I
Cruel
remember
Intentions or something. And
Yeah.
And then there's been some other stuff that's sort of like 3 mana for like the tiniest piece of what feels like a Cruel ultimatum, right? It's interesting that like this is a niche of Magic design. Anyways, I was going to say that I think it's okay if it's a slow news day, because I look forward to, and I think everyone's going to enjoy Ask, Concede.
Yes. All right, speaking of Ask, Concede, let's get to the asks. Paul, what's our first question? Psycho Mutt says, I do not mean to be that guy, and I may have missed something, but will there be a nicknames episode for one? And if so, when will the site be updated? I've been checking it. It's still on, bro. Psycho Mutt, you are not that guy. You are indeed the guy who's asking a good question, because you know what? Now, the site is live now. We just put up one nicknames now that we've all had a chance to get used to the cards. So you can go and check that out. We're going to have the link in the description below and all of that. So please submit your nicknames for All Will Be One. I believe there's like a few that are like really like have been agreed upon by the community. But and as a note, we have shortened the character limit this time to it's 100 characters.
No more full song lyrics, just the chorus.
Yeah, I mean, a normal Magic card only lets you have 35 characters. It's apparently the longest Magic card name. Was that Asmiranda?
We designed this card to be the longest card name in the history of Magic Elemental.
In Black Border, the longest card name.
Yeah.
Martica Dyson Cooler.
Yeah, I believe they're the long. It's 35 or 36. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've set it, but we've set it at 100, so you still have plenty of room for jokes. But at the same time, if you spend a long time writing out a complete song parody, that's awesome. But we're probably not going to read it out loud because it would take a really long time. So it's like, if you're going to do that, put it on Reddit so people can enjoy it.
Yeah. Like a card designer, you are now operating in a constrained design space.
Let's breed creativity.
Yeah.
And Psychomut, we're going to leave you to decide whether or not we were going to do a nicknames episode either way, or whether this all happened because you asked this question.
All right, next question. Next question.
Mark Blower 10 asks, with new formats being brewed, we know some people enjoy trying new styles of playing this game. Have you guys tried any new formats lately, like pre-DH? What about older formats like Oathbreaker and Tiny Leaders? Now, I believe I read a tweet of Shivam's that explained that pre-DH is Commander before the first set of Commander from WotC.
Oh.
So it's like that makes it like pre-Scavenging Ooze, pre-Kalia the Vast, pre-Riku of Two Reflections Commander. Mm-hmm. So every card that's printed up until the set before that, which might have been like Worldwake? I'm not sure.
Right.
Something like that. I don't know.
The golden age of Commander before explicitly designed Commander cards. Check
the comments, refresh the page, check if the comment's already there, maybe give it a like, but otherwise tell us what pre-DH is and then we can all read it. But it's some kind of old power level Commander.
Right.
There might be some other exceptions that you're allowed to play some new cards. I don't know. Yeah. None of us have played it, obviously.
No. It sounds interesting and a bit grognardy.
I don't know what that means.
Grognard is something from, it's a term used in, well, I've come across it a lot in wargaming. I'm not sure if it comes from anywhere else, but it's very kind of it refers to a grognard as an old man.
Ah, yes.
I have always pronounced that word in my head, grognard.
Grognard?
Nice.
I mean,
I like both.
I like yours. Yours sounds better.
It is a French word. It literally means a particular kind of crotchety old man.
It's an old grumpy man.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
The other term might be anorak. But I feel that we're all kind of like anoraks. If we're playing Magic.
Isn't that a jacket?
Yeah, it is. It's it refers to a kind of coat worn by people doing train spotting.
It's the kind of coat that you wear outside in all weather. It's warm and waterproof and stuff because train spotters will stand outside in miserable weather for a long time if it means spotting a train that they're looking for. So they need to have a good jacket. So they have an anorak.
Is that a job or what's train spotting besides a movie?
Hobby.
Okay,
it's a hobby. Yeah, I mean, I guess train spotting is kind of what people who currently build 737 cockpits in their basement for playing Flight Simulator used to do.
Okay.
Right. If you're an orthodontist, but you always wanted to be a pilot, right? Maybe back in the day you actually wanted to be a train engineer.
So you would just try to go see all of the trains?
Yeah.
Graham's uncle's like that. He was a lawyer, but now he's a train enthusiast. He's always been a train enthusiast.
As a quick note, the official cutoff for pre-DH is New Phyrexia. New Phyrexia is the last set.
Okay, so it's just New Phyrexia and before Commander. Any other rules?
Nope. But the idea is basically, it's EDH as opposed to Commander.
Right. Okay, we don't call it Commander. Sure, that's totally fine.
I assume, Niv Mizzet, the Firemind combo rules supreme.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Probably the vibe of the format is to get back to the, in Sheldon's early days, it was all about just haymakers, just ramp haymakers. Every deck was just big powerful spells, the mythics from Shards of Alara, the 8 drops. Those were
what it was, Send triplets.
Sure, and but also Godsire or Karthus, Tyrant of Jund, and then before that it was I'm just gonna play a Verdant Force and then I'm gonna play an Overrun,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so those cards are really not that important in today's definitely the competitive EDH games, but even the having fun with your pals, there's just so many more efficient things you can do for so much less mana in Commander now.
True. Yeah.
So
you don't even get Cyclonic Rift in that format. Because that's that's Return to Ravnica.
Return to Ravnica. I forget actually if Mirrodin came before Return to Ravnica or vice versa.
I'm almost certain it was before.
There you go. Well, maybe that was partly the choice of the cutoff. Maybe there's enough people because there's been clamor in the community to ban Cyclonic Rift for years and years now, right? Didn't it start?
But it's so fun to play with.
I mean, I don't have a horse in the game. But
you lent out your Cyclonic Rift.
That's right. I haven't seen my Cyclonic Rift in years.
It was delicious.
Right. No, that's not true. I have Cyclonic Rift in a Highlander deck right now, actually.
It's
It's
a good
fine in
card.
that format. Yeah, it's not even good. That's true, actually. It's kind of bad. I should cut it. But old school is like this, right? Where there's no new cards coming into the format, and people just like kind of want to relive the glory days. But also like there's tinkering and there's metagaming back and forth. So yeah, if Niv Mizzet ends up being like the most important thing, then probably like some deck that gets a lot of disenchants for free or something, or hexproof or something matters, or like milling gets a bit better against that combo because you still have 40 life and there's only 100 cards in the deck.
Right, but
Milling is like a real tough asking commander, though.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah, milling without Nekuzar.
Right.
Right. Yeah, but I guess like Leyline of Tranquility is where it's at in that situation.
Sure, like just Pithing Needle seems pretty good too. Anyways, there's people like these kind of sandboxes where they know that they don't have to keep catching up.
Right.
You know?
I assume that pre-DH probably lends itself to a very solved meta, or one where there's kind of like a rock paper scissors meta eventually.
Yeah, probably. Or it might just be like more commonly like decks of various power levels play against each other and like it's just social, right?
Right.
Because the early days of EDH were pretty social. They weren't like super. I don't think they were designed to be really competitive. It was more like
Right.
Yeah, just cast your favorite spells, and like the politicking is what will usually determine who's winning. But you know it's different in each play group.
Right.
So like some of that like your meta is automatically solved all the time or whatever because like Brian is just the best at Magic and always knows one more rule than you do or something. You know.
Okay.
As for Oathbreaker and Tiny Leaders, I've played them. Anyone else?
I have as well. I thought they were interesting, but fundamentally they're commander isotopes. Yeah, Tiny Leaders in particular lent itself to kind of like a very solved meta, if I remember correctly.
Right. So both these formats tend to be 1v1, and I think pre-DH is meant to be 4 players. Like I'm guessing if it's more like Commander, whereas like Oathbreaker and Tiny Leaders have the Commander or EDH style, like you have a general deck building, but then you play a 1v1 game. And yeah, Oathbreaker seemed like it.
Could we refresh
more.
everyone?
Sure.
Because if these are older formats that people may not be familiar with, so and because
Right.
I'm struggling to exactly remember Oathbreaker, but I remember that Tiny Leaders was your commander had to be CMC 3 or less.
Every card in your deck.
Yeah.
Every card in your deck, CMC 3 or less, including your commander. So you just don't get to play these big.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No big haymakers.
So you have Commander deck building, and your deck is 50 cards.
Oh, because it's tiny.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's
that's
half,
really fun.
half size. Yeah. And originally there was no Sultai Commander because the summer it came out was like the one before Conspiracy or something. So what's his name? The elf that's now like banned in regular Commander. Wasn't even printed yet. So they had a 2/2 with no abilities that they invented for their format where you just were allowed to play blue, black, and green together, and then your commander was just a vanilla 2/2.
Yeah, and the only Grixis commander was what's his name? Not Tetsuo Umezawa, the Umezawa from Legends, which wound up inflating his price.
Right.
Like he was kind of he's
Not Toshiro.
It might be Toshiro.
Oh, okay. I thought
Or
Toshiro
no.
was the one from Newer Kamigawa.
But yeah, like the Grixis commander was kind of this do nothing card from Legends,
Right.
And it wound up like taking him from like a 25-cent uncommon to
It is Tetsuo. Okay.
Tetsuo.
Not Toshiro. Tetsuo
Yes.
Umezawa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It doesn't do absolutely nothing. It's like a really expensive Royal Assassin, right?
yeah,
May not be a target of an enchant creature spell. There you go.
yeah,
Take
can't get encrusted.
take that a rest. Does that Mount Fuji in the background of Tetsuo? That's kind of cool.
I think it might be.
Anyway, so yeah,
And
you
what's
had
Oathbreaker, then?
Yeah, 50 card 1v1 games with cheap decks. And it was Highlander, but it ended up looking a fair bit like Legacy. Oathbreaker, you're allowed to have any Planeswalker as your commander.
Oh, right.
You play, I believe, a 60 card deck that's Highlander, except you also get a signature spell. And the rules for your signature spell are like your color identity is set by your Planeswalker. I hope I'm remembering this right. And your signature spell can be anything in those colors. It has to be an instant or sorcery. And then they both have commander tax. So each time you cast your, and I think maybe also you might only be allowed to cast your signature spell when your Planeswalker commander is on the
I think
battlefield.
that was correct, yes.
There might be another rule, but I think it's 60 card or 58 plus those two. And I built at least one deck, and my uncle played a fair bit, actually. I played like a few games last time I saw him at Command Fest 2019. So I didn't get deeply into that format, but both of them offer you like some more space to play around. All three of these really offer you some more space to play around that's commander-centric. For my own personal habits, like what I play a lot, I just do the arena formats and Canadian Highlander. And that takes up as much time and energy as I have to give to Magic. And I like haven't wanted for a new format in forever. I just want there to be a gladiator button all the time.
Yeah, the thing with these formats is that they are all paper formats, and I have not played a pickup game of paper Magic in
about 3 years, probably.
Yeah. It's like that TFW. You remember that the 19 in COVID-19 is for 2019.
It was late December, but still, yeah.
As a quick note, we have played Oathbreaker on stream.
We have.
At least once.
Yeah, I remember
As
meeting
as a 4-player.
Was one of us on there? Okay.
Yeah, I think it lent itself to a very... I think Serge actually came up with a tech for the signature spell that was quite clever. I don't remember what it was. But whoever was to my left had, like, clever tech for their signature spell, where I think I just was like, I don't know, I'll take counter spell because I have a persona on screen.
Nice.
And it was like, yeah, this is great to have a counter spell on tap. Now it's 12 mana. This is less good.
I have heard that Tybalt and Lightning Bolt as like your Tybalt at like the 2-mana Tybalt.
Right.
Yeah.
And Lightning Bolt just so you can get it out as quickly as like, because you have to have your Planeswalker out in order to cast your signature spell. So cheapest Planeswalker, cheapest burn spell.
That also seems pretty good in the format because
go.
if you can Lightning Bolt the enemy's Planeswalker, then they have to like recast for commander attacks before they can cast their signature spell the first time, right?
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
So that
Anyway.
seems kind of solid.
All right, next question. With 2 people who have actually written flavor text and 1 person who rivals Wheeler in card memory, what is your favorite flavor text? Says Wolfgang Cloud. I looked that up earlier because I can never remember because there's so much good flavor text.
There is a ton of good flavor text.
And more good flavor text comes out every time. So I've decided every time I get asked this, I'm going to try to look at a different set and find my favorite flavor text from that set because it's all good. So this is from the card Affectionate Indrik, which was just in Return to Ravnica. Or, I'm sorry, Guilds of Ravnica.
Just in Guilds of Ravnica from 2018.
Yes. And the flavor text reads, the problem isn't the Indrik's enthusiasm, it's Ravnica's lack of guardrails. Because I've always enjoyed like the short, quippy flavor text that really tell, like my favorite kind of thing is something that really tells you more than you're getting out of that one sentence. It implies a lot more, and I just think the combination of card name and flavor text there really tells you a lot about what is going on in this city and what the safety inspectors are not catching.
And the fact that it is a fight, like,
Yeah.
it's so affectionate that it's actually like a combat maneuver that it's doing to you.
I
Yeah,
love you.
Yeah, that this guy, this is when his guard is broken, right? Up until this point, he had been leaning into the Indrik,
Right.
being like, no, 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 no.
I look at all the cats around the Indrik.
Yeah.
The cats
Yeah,
love the Indrik too.
Indrik thinks he's a kitty.
He's just giving little headbutts.
Wants a big snuggle. Yeah.
Anyhow, I just like those kind of cards.
My personal favorite remains Nemesis of Reason from, I think, it wasn't from Shards of Alara, or was it?
Nemesis, I think, was in the
Alara Reborn.
Alara Reborn?
set.
Yeah, and it just has this unstoppable flavor text. This is the metalist flavor text I've ever read. Words describing it fail, pages relating it shrivel, tales recounting it end. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, if you were a legend pre-DH,
Right.
this would be it. I don't know. I find that concept of a Leviathan horror that is epistemologically or perhaps
Evasive.
ontologically evasive,
Yeah.
or destructive.
Unknowable. Yeah.
Yeah. This is very cosmic horror to me, and I love it.
I wonder what the art description was for this.
I don't know, like,
Draw something that can't be described.
yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, to be fair,
Mark
it's
Tadine, like,
knocked
came
it
up
out-
with something.
Yeah, it knocked out of the park. That is
Yeah.
something that I would not want to describe.
Kudos to Mark Tadine. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't really know what to tell you.
But it always reminds me of, and here I'm setting up a flag, but Neil Stephenson's Anathem was kind of like a fantasy book he wrote, and every chapter opens with like a definition of a term. I may have told this story on this stream before, or on this podcast before, while answering this question. Every chapter opens with like a term he's come up with for his fantasy world, right? Like a definition. And you're like, yeah, this is basically Klingon, but I get it. Like, you're having fun here.
Right.
And then at one point, the characters arrive at this place they've been looking for, and it's completely not what they expected. And it kind of like inverts a bunch of your expectations for it. And that chapter opens with a blank page. And I was like, yes! Yes,
Clever.
that's
Okay.
clever. I like it. I like it. We don't know things anymore. None of the things that we thought we knew, we knew.
Whoops.
Nice.
And yeah, this kind of nails the same feeling for me.
So I really like this card. I played it in Highlander last week on stream. Not this card,
Oh.
sorry. The card I'm about to talk about. Is that okay? Are we done with Nemesis Immortals? Or
Yeah.
Reason?
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye, Nemesis of Reason.
And the flavor text is step lightly, and we might be able to use it as a bridge. And attributed to Ib Halfheart, who also has their own card, which is kind of cool. The card's called Pan Glacial Worm, and it's unique in rules text, I guess. Unique in like examples of cards like itself, where it's a creature that you can cast from your library while you're searching your library. So it's kind of a cute little gem for. I want to say probably Commander would care too. I really like it for Canadian Highlander, but it only goes in bad decks. but I like the card a lot, and I find the flavor text like very, kind of. Again, it does a lot of work. Teaches you what the goblin leaders are thinking, and like what the attitude is, and what the power structure, and like just how hanging on by a thread, the goblin armies of Dominaria are doing, right? Like, here's this plan where we're just going to walk across this giant worm.
Yeah, and hope it doesn't notice us.
Yeah, hope it doesn't rear its head like it's doing in the art and, like, go for, devouring some elephant it senses somewhere or something like that, right?
Also, this card's art is just wonderful. This, like, has a Massacre Worm vibe to me.
Yeah.
Remember Massacre Worm, like, you look at it and you can hear him yelling, like, hey, you guys. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going places. Like, I'm ready to...
He looks happy.
I'm ready to hang on for dear life and ride across the sands of Arrakis on this thing, right? Yeah.
By the way, here's Ib Halfheart.
Everybody but me charge.
I also feel the need to give a shout out to the love song of Night and Day from Mirage.
Okay.
Which, I always like the, I guess it ends on the card Unfulfilled Desires.
Right, so the love song of Night and Day is a piece of writing inside the world of magic.
Yes.
That got its own card just now in
Yes.
Dominaria United, right? But this is a book or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
it's a piece of
yeah,
writing. It's a text
I
that's
guess
quoted
it's a
on
song.
several cards in Mirage, right?
Yeah, and I love this kind of diegetic writing. Like, this is a song that exists inside this world, and it kind of gives, I don't know, you could call it a flavor to the people of this world in the stories that they tell. Another one that I really liked was the Theriad
Okay, yeah.
from the original Theros set, which was quoted on multiple cards.
Right.
There's also one that's like the Book of Sarah or something like that.
Right.
In some of the old cards as well.
And if you get really old cards, you can find, like, public domain stuff, which, like...
Yeah.
I don't know, like
yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe and Shakespeare lines. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember...
Or A Prairie and a Bee,
Yeah,
right? Emily Dickinson, I think.
yeah. Wasn't that on...
It's on Caracas.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't there also one that was on... Oh, it's a green card. It's 3 mana. All of your lands tap for extra mana this turn. Again, it was from Tempest. Bountiful Harvest?
Bountiful Harvest, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, figure it out for me. Here's an incredibly vague set of parameters.
Oh, that is a card, actually.
No, yeah.
Fruit Heart, we called it.
Really? Why's that? Abundant Harvest?
John Rickard started saying it, so I
Yeah.
kept saying it, but I have no idea why he went with that name. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it just comes out of nowhere. Ex nihilo.
Summer Bloom? No?
No.
Oh,
it's-
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is not really relevant. We can probably
Actually,
move
if
on
you
from
could
it.
bring up the Terramorphic Expanse from Bro, that has good flavor text.
Oh.
Flavor text?
I didn't rate that one either. I can't remember any flavor text. I remember some of the flavor text I wrote from Bro, but really the only thing that I remember about that set that I did is that I named Ravenous Gigamole.
Yeah, you did.
It's the only thing it's the thing I'll be most proud of until something else comes out.
I guess my ethos for flavor text, or the flavor text I most enjoy, are the ones where it is something in the universe giving context to what this is. And that's like all flavor text, but some of it's more successful than others.
No, not the classic flavor text. The from the normal set, or like not the old frame Bro, but like just the regular set. I think it's Terramorphic Expanse. It's got
not bad, too.
Ashnod in the flavor text.
Oh.
She's talking to Tanos, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's just like it's something along the line. There's a certain beauty in destruction. Some might look at this war and call it a masterpiece, and it's like the fire sweeping across and like ravaging the
right,
land.
right,
It's just a
right.
really good piece of text. I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it's not Terramorphic Expanse, but I'm sure it's like a trade, turn a land, get a land you need card,
I think Terramorphic Expanse was in Bro.
like just the regular draft Bro.
But maybe Field of Ruin was as well.
Maybe it was Field of Ruin. I don't know. I don't remember.
Point being, I think my flavor text wins are the ones that remind me a lot of the flavor text for the technologies in Alpha Centauri.
Oh, it was Evolving Wilds.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
okay. There's a certain beauty in destruction. Some will consider this war a masterpiece. Ashnod. I just like Ashnod's a very pragmatic person, so to me that really captures her character.
I want to send a
Pragmatic.
special shout out to whoever in YouTube is, negging Kathleen right now for not remembering the difference between Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. What up? Hey, how's it going?
They do the same thing.
I know, yeah.
Well, actually, these are.
Anyhow,
I feel that there's
I see my pedants,
yeah,
you know.
neg
Yeah.
me.
We're out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I'm not going to read it. Waste your own time.
there's a 200-page dissertation on the difference between red elemental blast and pyroblast.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I've just invented a guy to be mad at.
That's
Yeah.
fine. These people don't really exist. It's okay.
I'm gonna move us along and say next question. Magic Story's primary goal is to be an advert, but if we were going to look at it from a literary perspective, what is the point of the story? What is the story trying to say about stuff, and what are the themes and motifs it falls back on to do so? Stack on top wolf. Woo! What a good question. I don't know. I'm not really privy to those discussions.
I would say, like, currently, the Magic Story is like a group of adventures of people living in magic worlds, but not really interacting with magic in the way that we do. Or not, like, I remember back in the day having a comic that was illustrated by Rebecca Gay. I think it was the Homelands comic. And, it would have people, like, shouting at how they're going to cast Sinkhole. Right, like named spells. And that doesn't really happen in the contemporary Magic Story because it's kind of embarrassing. And
Like calling out the name of your spell and then having
Yeah.
a spell with a name that does the same thing every time or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Right.
maybe it feels a bit too Yu-Gi-Oh for the writers, and it feels more organic, right? I do remember, I think Nissa quite frequently in the Magic Story will explicitly call on like the power of the land
And
in
the
order
ley
to
lines
cast her
and stuff
spells.
like
yeah,
that,
ley
yeah.
lines. But we never really get into how Jace must just own an archipelago somewhere in order to cast his spells, because fundamentally, I guess you would look at planeswalkers, i.e., the players as being vast landlords, feudal overseers who are using, like, over the course of many seasons, the power of the land to, generate these effects. And who knows what that actually is? Like, when you tap a plains, are you, like, depleting it of its magical energy, or are you just settling it with peasants who are farming, and then you use the proceeds of that farming to purchase, like, you get money from it, and that's how you cast Icacian Javelineers. I cast Icacian Javelineers. My lord, no, that's the result of taxes, and then you hire and sustain those people. Like, I have cast that spell.
I could low-key do this.
Very good, my lord.
My thought is that I feel current magic is the story of cool, heroic people traveling the multiverse to save it from terrible threats that are far outside the scope of the normal inhabitants and dealing with whole nother problems. And the problems persist no matter really what plane you're going to, right? Like, you go to these planes, but the real plot, especially over as we've been doing the Phyrexian arc, does not really have anything to do with Kamigawa or Kaldheim. That's just where Phyrexians happen to be and where they're happening to mess things up and get in there and stuff like that, So the plot is driven, which is not to say those locations aren't important and flavorful, but the plot is driven by things that are not related to the locations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well,
high-level events and high-level people that are sort of literally above all that.
Yeah, well, like, the Gatewatch is kind of dealing with metaplanar or extraplanar threats, right? Like, they go to Kamigawa, or they go to I think in particular Kaladesh, and are like, we're not here to interfere with your internal politics. It's very Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's an insurrection going on here, but we're mainly like, we're here to look at what's coming from outside the plane, and I suppose dealing with it is kind of like an ecological threat, almost.
Yeah.
So, it has a bit of that, I guess, the 1990s Star Trek TNG Prime Directive, the end of history a bit, where we don't interfere, really, unless there's somebody else interfering.
And then we interfere with those people.
Yeah.
But not the other people. What are the themes and motifs? I think superheroes, powerful people, huge threats that require people to team up and work together to overcome, like, that kind of thing. The same themes you see in Star Wars and Marvel movies and stuff. It's very
I think this
like
era,
vengeance and revenge and like trying to exact justice comes up a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, there's the adage, like, if your story doesn't have an explicit theme, then if your story has a plot, then it has a theme, and if you're not, like, planning that out in explicit terms, then it will kind of happen organically. So, I would say that a lot of Magic's themes are, we liked the MCU, and we thought those movies were fun, and people liked them. And we're trying to do the same thing.
And people are primed to pick up on that kind of storytelling. It's an easy story to tell nowadays. Nowadays, everybody sort of recognizes that.
Right.
Of, like, powerful people who can travel beyond to areas that normal people can't, solving problems that normal people can't. But I like it. I want to see some return to stories at a more, I would say, local level. And I think this is probably going to come after this. You need your reset years where apparently everything in Magic is going to change. So maybe we'll have to get to know a bunch of new people. I don't know, right? Like,
yeah. And, like, all the Planeswalkers have shared values. They all know what justice is, even though they come from very different places.
Yeah.
Right? There's no there's no character being like, well, where I come from, the height of civilization was a feudal lord that you paid your taxes to, and they just sent it on up the chain, and that's what I think is normal. And I don't really understand, like, I don't know, your values don't make much sense to me, because I grew up in a place that didn't have those values, and I came to these organically, and this makes sense to me, and nobody has to be like.
Nobody has to be having long discussions. The discussions you're having is like, well, who gets their name in the song first if you're Tyvar, right?
Yeah.
I'd like my name to be in the song first.
Yeah.
Because I did all of the punching.
Yeah. And right now, everyone kind of is like, oh, look, it's Bolus, who has, gemstone zombies. And before that, there were Eldrazi. And now there's Phyrexians.
Yeah.
And we can all agree. That these threats must be dealt with. And we don't have to deal with our own internal politics at all.
They're all the same kind of threat. Bolus wants to take over everything and run things his way. The Phyrexians want to take over everything and run things Elish Norn's way, to be pretty specific. Or at least that's what she thinks. The other ones, there seems to be, as far as at least implied, some dissent in that. But, and then the Eldrazi also wanted to run things their way, which was doing the things that we're supposed to do. We're here. We eat planes. That's what we do. Why? Because that's what we're here to do. Sort of your intergalactic.
Yeah. One side
cleanup crew.
Yeah, one side of the conflict has been a tyrant quite a bit in Magic, right? Like one kind of tyrant or another. But there's also been we have some view into the lives of common people across the plains. And I don't know whether this is a theme or a motif, but it's something you get exposed to in the story if you've been playing the card game for a while, where you just learn about the way that different imaginary customs and traditions work, and the laws that different people across the plains live by. Like in Kaladesh, we mentioned there's a revolt. On Lorwyn, the high elves are also kind of extremely cruel and murderous.
Yeah.
And you sort of you get to and in Ravnica, there are laws, but they only really benefit people in the guilds. And then most people are just trying to they're living in a weird anarchy that also exists in a city, where you know what I mean? They just have to try to fit themselves between the cracks of whatever the guilds do. So they, there's just all these different kinds of lives that are hard for different reasons, although kind of similar to our lives. And so you get to sort of shine a mirror on your place in society.
That's where
a little
your
bit in
flavor
Magic.
text really comes in. That's where flavor text
absolutely.
shines.
I would suppose that the Magic story right now feels like someone very high up in Wizards saying, we want to do MCU, but no politics. Absolutely no politics. Is that politics? No, none of that. None. We don't want any of that. There are no politics.
Okay. Yeah, that's cold, but probably true.
I have no insight into this, but I feel that this is strongly true, which, is the space that a podcast operates in.
Yeah, here's some bullshit that we're telling you. Some bull beep that we're telling you.
Yeah. Ultimately, we'd like to come back and not try to refute the first claim in your point, which was that the Magic Story's first goal is to sell the Magic cards.
I mean, it's true, right? You need something.
That is the first goal.
You need some sort of thing that, you can't just print all these cards and, you got to name them. You got to put little sentences on the bottom so we care about them. And we are like, oh, that's a cool thing I learned. Oh, that one was funny. Ha ha. Well, I like that card now because, it's got a thing. You need artwork. You need all of these things. Why is anything happening? You need humans are just attuned to tell stories. So even if you didn't give us one, we'd start making one up anyhow.
I would actually say the Magic Story serves a purpose that is more for game designers than it is for selling cards, in that the designers need an armature on which to hang the card mechanics and the card identities. So that's probably the first, Richard Garfield back in the day, you're trying to come up with a concept for a new Magic expansion, and you need a story.
Yeah, well,
right? An internal logic that sets the parameters for what the cards are going to look like.
The Silex explodes, and now there's an ice age. Okay, we need something to do with the world being covered in snow.
Yeah. And that does serve a commercial purpose as well, in that it invites in certain players with certain values, I guess, or certain interests.
Nerds.
Nerds, yeah. It's a broad net encompassing all kinds of nerds.
Everybody likes stories. All right, next question. Personal top 3 tokens.
Fairy Rogue.
Oh, yeah, Fairy
Yeah,
Rogue.
Bitter Blossom represent.
Yep.
For some reason, even though I don't know if I've ever made it, that 8/8 token from Godsire that we were talking about earlier in like beginning of Commander or EDH, and the zombie from Shards of Alara that has like crab claws for hands.
Yes. Yeah, I love that dude. I would have to say, once again, got to give a shout out to Fairy Rogue.
Important token.
Very. I bought the original Bitter Blossom Secret Lair drop.
Right, you did.
Specifically because
Yeah.
I wanted the Fairy Rogues. I really like the Devil token from New Capenna.
Okay, yeah, it's got a hat or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
She looks like she's going to blow up and do 1 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've hung out with this person.
Holding another devil token like by the collar.
Yep. This is fun.
Hey, come here, watch this. Right now, watch this.
And I love all stripes of Mir. Just they're little guys. They're just a little guy.
Little Battlesphere token.
Yeah. I did like the Phyrexian Mir, even if it made me sad. But I think my personal favorite is a token I made, which was for Ophiomancer, because for a long time Ophiomancer didn't have a token for its black snake creature. So I drew a token with someone doing like a the Ophiomancer is doing basically like a shadow puppet.
Yeah.
Right? And so I drew like a hand in profile doing that, and then the shadow it cast.
Nice.
And I thought it looked pretty cool.
You like tokens,
I
Kathleen?
do, and I'm desperately trying to think about what kind of tokens I like. Okay, the cats that Essica's chariot make.
Oh yeah, Floof Wagon
Norwegian-
Floofs.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one.
Norwegian Forest Cat kind
Yes.
of brand.
Yeah, the
a
ones
good
that
one.
look pretty close to one of my cats. Yeah, like that could be Finnegan when he's older.
Yeah, they're Maine Coon tokens, aren't they?
Well,
Well, I
Maine
thought-
Coon or Norwegian Forest cats.
Okay, sure.
They
Yeah.
all look kind of similar. I'm sure somebody who knows more about cats could. I mean, I think maybe they might be Norwegian. Okay, this is the grognard for cats. They might be Norwegian Forest cats because Maine Coons have quite a like big, sort of wider mouth. They're just like they've got like liony type mouths.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. I love fluffy cats. Fairy Rogue because love the design of the Lorwyn fairies because they're like insects, which I love.
Yeah.
Like they're gross, nasty fairies.
It reminds me of the fairies from Willow, I think, more than any other sci-fi space where it's just sort of like, there's fairies, it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you get that these are black aligned fairies. These are like the unseelie fairies almost, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like maybe
These
Labyrinth.
guys.
There's fairies in Labyrinth too. They're just like a-holes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very traditional interpretation of a fairy, right? Like the happy, lovely, shimmery butterfly fairies is more like an 18th century thing.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas these are like, where's my keys? Don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get bent out of shape by it.
Yes, nasty, mischievous little flying assholes is
Yes,
like,
yeah.
The traditional fairy thing, which I love, and all the interpretations thereof. And I'm really trying to think if I have a third favorite token. I don't know. I can't think of one right now.
One more shout out to the Skeletonized token that broke all of the MTGO drafts for a couple weeks there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The bugs happen, and Magic is a complicated game, and shout out to anyone who's worked on developing it into a digital product. I'm not one of those people. I don't know your struggle, but I'm sure it's there. And yeah, there was a week or two during Shards of Alara draft where if anyone cast Skeletonize, first, it broke the entire draft, like it would break all of the matches, including the ones you weren't in. That was the rumor. I only experienced it breaking the game I was in, although possibly it was breaking other games too, but I think... yeah, it was definitely a problem. The game would just end if anyone cast Skeletonize for it might have been only 5 days. They fixed it pretty quick.
Right.
But
I also feel like I probably need to give a shout out to the food token with the curly banana,
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which everyone loves.
Yep.
Imagine trying to peel a curly banana.
What a pain.
Yeah, then the banana breaks if it's ripe.
All How are you supposed to do a banana split?
Yeah. But there it is. It's a curly banana.
Oh, and a pomegranate? This is just all irritating food.
Yeah. And then
Those are apples in the front, right?
Maybe. They have some sort of like weird black goo coming out of them.
Yeah, yeah. The one in the middle is oozing from its navel.
I'm calling it. This is all just cake.
Oh, dude.
It's been cake the whole time, even the cut in half pomegranate.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That's from like way back in the day. Not even way back in... Is that even from before times where everything was cake?
I don't know. Everything's been cake a few times. Like it's surfaced a couple times. I'm not sure
like a
when the
Netflix
first
show.
everything is cake. There's a recent Netflix show called "Is This Cake" or "Is It Cake" or something.
Right.
But the like meme or videos of like everything being cake. Yeah, I think I want to say 2018 or 2019. Probably crossed my desk the first time.
I mean, I think the first time I encountered that entire concept was in one of those Japanese game shows. Not even game shows, but the ones where they put a bunch of comedians in like a house together and then create arbitrary rules. But one of the games is like you have to find the object in this house that is chocolate and you can't use your hands. So it's just a bunch of like Japanese comedians biting things. And then one of them finds a doorknob and he just like bites and he gets this crazed look on his face like, I've won this game, and snaps off a chocolate doorknob.
Whoa. Okay.
Incredible.
That's awesome.
So it was a bit of a diversion. Next question. Do you think completion will actually have long-term story consequences, or will it get dropped after Phyrexia is done? I have no idea.
Yeah, I would like it to. I mean, there's a part of me that looks at the planeswalkers who have been completed and like, you know, Nissa, Jace,
A Johnny.
These might have been planeswalkers that have had like 14 cards already, and the designers just kind of are tapped out on what their design space is, right? Like maybe we just ran out of ideas for what to do with a Jace card, and that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. And like, yeah, part of me is like, no, I want these characters to be okay. But yeah, another part of my brain says, well, yeah, but there's Jace, there's Will, there's Teferi, there's Kasmina. Like, we have plenty of blue planeswalkers. Maybe we don't need this many blue planeswalkers. And it's like, no. And like, I don't know. Like, to me, I'm a little worried because, like, in the Tezzeret story, from Tezzeret's point of view, they describe what they did to Tamiyo, and I don't know if there's any coming back from that.
Yeah, like, there's probably some kind of reset button in the pipeline somewhere.
Maybe?
But
I don't know.
I would honestly prefer this to have consequences.
I think it's going to have consequences. Like,
I would also like to just have characters who are, like, viewpoint characters, because, you know, we've all learned storytelling from Game of Thrones, that are able to give some kind of insight into what it's like being in New Phyrexia. Whoa, Paul, which Tammy is that?
It's Altart.
Altart?
Altart completed Sage.
I need to get that. That's
Nice.
cool. We now have perspective characters inside Phyrexia, and I think that's kind of neat. Mm-hmm. I would like to see, you know, what it is like there for them.
yeah.
Because, you know, these people now have an intuitive understanding of Phyrexia, but it's been implied that there's still, like, their personality kind of exists
Yeah.
as a disruptive element or something that can't quite be eliminated.
Well, because they still have their spark, so they still have their soul, right? They're still, like, self-aware and alive, right?
Right, but, like, they are now, all of what they were is now a little twisted in that their internal logic dictates that what Phyrexia is doing is now good by their own internal moral code.
Yeah, like
Right,
Ajani
like
is still
Ajani-
like the pride, but now he's like, my pride is Phyrexians, and I save my friends by making them Phyrexians.
Yeah, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I just want to know, like, what does the faith of the Elish Norn aligned faction of Phyrexians look like? Like, because it's quite clearly a religion,
Yes.
right? What is their worship like? What are their beliefs like?
If you read the magic stories, it seems like a lot of being quiet and doing what Elish Norn says, which is
which is like, I've been to church too.
yeah.
Right. I think it's important.
Now's the part where we shut up.
Right. I think it's important to like try to frame the question, like, what do you mean by after Phyrexia is done? Because big magic villains don't really go away.
Yeah.
They put a lot of work into building these up. They figure out a way to have them make other characters join forces. Like you get to see, like Liliana working with other people to defeat either the Eldrazi or Bolas or the Phyrexians or whatever. And so they always just kind of backburner them, put them on ice. Right now in the story, Emrakul is in the moon.
Happy, thriving,
Obviously
in her moon.
ready to pop out of the moon since she was put in there or went there of her own volition, however it works out. Like clearly ready to pop out of the moon whenever it suits WotC to like get Emrakul back in the story. And Nicol Bolas was sent to jail. And jails are things that people break out of.
Yeah. He's in the Arkham Asylum plane.
Yes, exactly. And Tezzeret's gone to his own like special place to wait till he's ready to be a big bad guy again.
Which I enjoyed. Like Tezzeret just realized, hey, you know what? I've got a Darksteel Citadel on a desert plain with no living things on it.
And I have a Darksteel body now.
Yeah, I'm just going to go and...
I don't need to fight this.
Yeah, I'm just going to sit on my throne and brood, right? I'm going to do some bisexual seeding for a century, right? And eventually somebody's going to show up, and when they do, we're going to have one of those scenes where somebody walks into the abandoned citadel and just finds the Lord reclined on his seat, brooding.
Yes. Yeah.
And it'll be sweet.
I like Tezzeret as a character. He's a selfish POS.
He's such a dirtbag.
He's a horrible dirtbag, but like he's a great villain because he doesn't want to rule the world. He just wants to be comfortable.
Yeah.
He wants to be in charge of himself.
But my prediction for the way that this all pans out is that the Phyrexians accidentally open a portal to our Earth, and the Americans realize they're made out of oil.
Oh, God.
I would like Phyrexia to lose, obviously. I don't know. I don't know what honestly, I think they'll leave something around because it's silly to kill off anything entirely. It's called, from a storyline point of view and an improv point of view, it's called stocking the fridge. You're just going to leave a little leftover in there for later, and maybe you eat it and maybe you don't, but it's there for you in case you want it. So getting rid of something entirely is kind of bad story writing. And also, I've seen so many theories about this. Oh, that Nicol Bolas is going to get something in the meditation plane, or Emrakul's going to come out of the moon. I will eat my hat if that happens. That is bad storytelling, and that is lazy, and none of that has been set up. And WotC are very good about setting things up over many sets. They would have made hints about that if that was going to happen. That is lazy. It's going to come across as Deus Ex Machina. Nobody wants that.
What, like the Phyrexian?
Like if Emrakul comes in to defeat the Phyrexians, you mean? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it's like all these planeswalkers have been completed now from that we've seen in one, right? And I think some of them will be stocking the fridge, assuming that the Phyrexian invasion gets repelled or whatever, right?
I would assume that the Eldrazi had been set up as like an extra planar cleaning service for like a decade now.
But they've only been sitting there since Shadows over Innistrad. That's like what, like 4 years, maybe 5?
Shadows over Innistrad?
Yeah.
But have we had any like hints that they're going to be involved in this story?
No.
I think this is Kathleen's point. Like there should have been a hint within the arc since we first saw Kaldheim's Praetor.
Oh, okay.
Like whether there would be a hint that one of those other forces would be coming to save the multiverse from the Phyrexians. And I don't think we've seen that.
No. I don't know. I think I've definitely made that comment in Reddit threads.
Okay.
As well. It's like, no, that's probably not going to happen.
Is it bad that Shadows over Innistrad was 2016?
So 6 years.
7 years.
7 years.
Sorry.
Oh. It's 3 more years to bake those Eldrazi, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, put into a preheated oven at 350 and bake for 10 years.
Or we could get to whatever Kasmina is setting up. I'd love, because we've put some hits in that. That was in sort of the downtime of Eldraine and Strixhaven, right? So she got set up as having something going on, but we don't know what that is yet, right? And then Tezer, I don't know. I'd like them to not. I just don't trust that lady. I don't look at her and think her to be trustworthy. Like, her whole MO is like traumatizing people to get their sparks to ignite because she needs lots of planeswalkers for something, but it's not this.
Right. The only thing we've learned about someone who needed lots of planeswalkers for something was
Nicol
Nicol Bolas.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's good not to trust someone who's trying to collect planeswalkers.
Yeah, exactly.
Dangerous vibe.
Yeah.
Also, that one player in your playgroup, what are they doing? Why do they need one of every planeswalker?
Yeah.
Girl
They say
boss.
it's for a binder.
I see you, Marcus.
Gatewatch.
Yeah. So anyhow, I think there's lots of stuff going on that I don't think that they need to go back to these things that they've already done recently. I'd like to, keep moving on with new exciting things. But I don't know. That's just me. But thus far, I've been pretty good at predicting what's going to happen for Magic Story. So, I mean, I nailed Luca.
Oh, nice.
But I mean, I think we'll see if I get anything else right, and then I can start opening myself up to
Well, I hope you don't have to
commissions.
eat a hat. Yeah.
I'll bake a hat out of cake. I can't actually eat a real hat, but I will bake a cake shaped like a hat and eat it.
Do we have any more questions? How do you deal with burnout? Asks B Amazing. With all these products and sets coming out, it can be so overwhelming, and the rest of us don't also have to host PPRs and create content constantly for it. How do you all handle it without becoming just a job? Oh, how do we handle it without it becoming just a job?
I take breaks.
Yep.
I mean, at a certain point, it is a job, and you have responsibilities, though. Mm-hmm. So, you focus on it like a work thing that you need to do. For example, before we did this podcast, I was making a spreadsheet, right? Because that needs to be done. It's like, we've got all of these things we need to do. Who's going to do all of these things? How do we make the schedule for when these things happen? Like, what are the deadlines? And then we have Trello cards and Slack and all of these, and Dropbox and all of these other things that get the things done.
TLR, we don't. It's a job.
Yep.
Well, but at the same time, like, we just did a pre-record that Cameron was in called Hear and Seek, where the puppets tormented us by hiding walkie-talkies everywhere.
That's awesome.
And as far as it being a job, we recorded that on Tuesday to air on Saturday, and we had about 2.5 hours of footage to go through. And it was, I would call, complicated because there was also, there was 5 of us.
Yeah, Serge,
Ian,
me,
Serge,
Corey,
Ian. Bijou, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone? 6.
Yeah.
6 people. 6 people is a lot to mix and match in footage-wise and stuff like that. And kind of you got to, like, watch everything and then identify the sub-themes and, like, reorganize stuff and, like, actually just get your storytelling sorted out, which is more complicated than than it seems when you're dealing with up to like 45 minutes of footage per person, and you can really only the final pre-record was like 22 minutes, right? So you're showing not that much per person, so you just got to find all of those good bits and figure out where to put them. Then there's all the technical stuff of color correction and audio adjustment and stuff like that. Choosing music, see the right music and when it stops and starts is really important, and it's all actually very complicated, and I ended up spending a lot of time working on that. But at the same time, it's really good and really funny, and I'm proud of it, and it's just nice to work on something that even if it's stressful at the time, you can feel really happy about it. And when people watch it, people were talking about how funny it is, and that's all I want to do. I just want to make people laugh. I want people to enjoy it and have them say, I love that. Like, everybody really, like, we get such nice comments about Punch Counter Punch and how weird and funny it is, and that's, there's multiple meetings involved with that.
Yep.
Recording, and then lots of editing and artwork and stuff like that going back and forth. But at the end of it, you get to say, yeah, that was only like 10 minutes and it took like 20 hours. But everybody enjoyed that 10 minutes. More than 20 hours of enjoyment was had in aggregate by all the people who watched it.
Yeah, if if 1,000 people watch it for 20 minutes, suddenly that's, I don't know, do math, nerds, more than 20 hours worth of enjoyment.
Yeah. But as far as like burnout goes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't often play Magic for fun, but it's also a job, and if you don't do it, it doesn't get done.
Sometimes you get to have fun while you're playing Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reality, is that, like, you said earlier, take breaks, and because the burnout's real.
Oh, yeah.
And then, it's not just a job. The word just is doing some work in that last sentence where you're like, oh, it's a job, so I have to hate it, right? Like I'm going out and I'm making money for someone else and I'm doing some task I dislike. And it's like, well, when I like get up to go to work or whatever, I'm still like, gotta go to work, or, gotta get myself to this meeting where we're just gonna like stare at a whole bunch of magic cards and try to think of jokes about them or whatever. And it's like a little bit tedious, but it's still like there's parts of it that you enjoy, and so you've just got to do both. You show up and you like make yourself do the tasks the same way you would be if you're taking out the trash or vacuuming the floor, which are also things that we just do around here too. And then you also get to do tasks that you really enjoy, like playing magic cards or talking about magic cards, like, or making jokes. Like there's opportunity for enjoyment, and so you have to like let yourself have that, and sometimes remember that you had that in the past as well, because it is a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's expectations and all that, but at the end of the day, you're doing something that makes people happy.
And I had one more too. It's like you just keep chasing it, right? Like whatever your hobby is that you like really get into, and then you dream that you're going to work at it, and then you go and work at it, and then you realize that you turned your hobby into a job. Then you just need to get another hobby, right?
Yes.
So it's like you can just keep doing it through games. Like you just find a new game that you like, and you play your new game for fun, and then you start making content about your new game, and you're like, oh no, it turned into a job. So you have to get another game. Like it's you just keep spiraling.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, like if I didn't like this job, I would probably go and do something else. And I have not. So, being just a job, it's pretty good as far as just a job goes.
And I mean, I'm not trying to toot the horn here, but I feel like we're pretty good about like, hey, if people are burned out, that they can sort of back off and not participate as much, or participate more when they can. I went through it pretty rough. Like the pandemic was hard because like my job got real hard, and then we got over the pandemic, and then my husband, like just as the pandemic was starting to be over for most people,
Right.
We
all got the vaccines that year, right? Yeah.
But then we got a whole extra year in my house because Graham got cancer, so that was really rough, and like trying to like also like keep going on while that was happening, that was not great. So I was pretty burned out at the end of the year. For the sort of second year in a row, sort of finished November and being like, I'm dying. But, just sort of taking it easy for a couple of months and being like, I'll do this, but not much else. Like, we're not going to be doing any like extracurricular work. I'll just get my work done and no new projects will start is kind of a nice thing about, working here and like letting other people take the reins on stuff.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions, Paul?
Cameron, you've said a few times that you would love to see a modern reimagining of Fallen Empires. What aspects of the original would need to stay intact to scratch that itch? Thanks, Nick, the DM.
Well, like the basically, I love cards like Icacian Javelineers and Order of Lightburn. I don't really have a concept for it beyond that, although I think I would like to see a reimagined Fallen Empires as being like a very kind of there would be two factions within each color, and one of them would be very aggressive, a lot of like 3/1s with first strike, those kinds of cards. And then the other half of it would be a lot more enduring cards, right? Like you would have the Fallen Empires themselves being kind of like aggressive with a lot of like trade-offs. And then the factions, the overthrowing the insurgent factions, being a lot kind of tougher.
Okay, so like you'd like to see in a Fallen Empire set like the storytelling of like one empire kind of giving way to another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
I don't know how that would work out. That probably just sounds miserable. It's like, oh, I have a 1/1 with first strike and my opponent just played, or I have a 3/1 with first strike and my opponent just played a 1/4. Okay. Guess this game is over.
Combat tricks, let's go. Come on, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe a lot of times where you're 2-for-1ing yourself, but getting in for 3.
Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. It could be good.
Could be good. Could be good. But I just really enjoy the idea of these institutions that feel very solid and very strong, turning out to be, in fact, incredibly brittle and fragile. Right. And the things that come along to replace them being, in large part, not their own thing, not their own, like, discrete ideology, but one that is a response to the existing order. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
A little contrarian, maybe.
Yeah,
two
we had
contrarian for their
A,
own
so
good.
now we have B.
Yeah, exactly. And B beats A, but doesn't really do anything else.
Yeah, B. But,
Right.
but what we really needed was aubergine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, what you were looking for was indigo,
Yeah.
not B. Right? Like, B beats A. B does not really do anything else but beat A. And now it's all you got.
Yeah.
Now you have an ice age.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Next question.
It's a very uplifting, uplifting set.
Is this our last question, Paul? All right.
right.
And our last question is, were you the first in your friend group to play and to try to get others to play Magic? Do those folks still play, or maybe you were the only one? Asked by May We Come In. No and yes for me. I was not the first person, and all of my friends who got me to start to play Magic definitely still play Magic.
The friend group you're talking about is the one we all know and work with?
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. Karen?
Well, when I first started playing Magic, it was because there was a comic shop above the Fabricland that my mother went to, and she was just like, "Here's $10. I'm gonna be an hour."
Be 45 minutes. An hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and I came back with like,
Don't come back before then.
the original, well, not the original, a revised starter box.
Sure.
And I thought it was pretty cool, but I didn't have any friends who played, and my friends were like, it's kind of nerd stuff. And I was like, yeah, no, it is. And I think I probably played like 4 games of Magic ever in that phase of Magic playing. Then I came back during university and had friends who played, and we played a lot, but it was very kind of like kitchen table stuff. I did not do any organized play in that, and probably played around 24 games of Magic between games of D&D. Right.
Nice. As Magic was intended to be played.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in my third wave, which is this, yes, all these people still play Magic because you were looking at them.
How old were you when your mom was like, "Here's $10, go to the fabric store"? Or
Probably like 12.
Classic.
I'm excited for when I can be like, "Penelope, here's a 20, go to the bookstore."
Yeah. Like, maybe I won't pick up my copy of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi today. Maybe I will, in fact, buy Magic cards.
My family got me into Magic, and like of the cadre, there was like 5 of us. I had like 2 uncles and 2 cousins that played a lot, and they all still have cards, but one of my cousins and my uncle that first got me into Magic cards still play pretty actively. Yeah.
Are they like, cool, Nelson gets to do all this cool stuff now?
Oh yeah, I'm super popular
Excellent. You're the coolest person in
among
your
my
family.
uncles and cousins. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Uncle Dave. Shout outs to cousin Rob, still playing.
I remember having an uncle. Well, one of my partners had an uncle who was like really into War Thunder at one point. And we were like, at one point, we got to talk about weird ass British tanks that never really existed.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, if you can be the cool nephew to your perpetual bachelor uncle who's an anorak.
Nowadays, he
Right.
could just
Une
marry.
grognard.
Yeah.
Nowadays, he could just marry the other bachelor he lives with, though, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, his long-term roommate.
Things are better. Yeah.
Well,
If you would like to marry the bachelor that you live with, why not propose to them via a gift of magic cards from cardkingdom.com/LRR?
what a smooth segue. Some sort of, there's a Lord of the Rings set coming out, so there'll be some kind of one ring on a magic card, almost certainly, right?
Must
I don't see
be.
why they wouldn't have a powerful.
I mean, it's
I
got to
like
be
the
9
tweet that
mana.
demanded it would
9
be
mana
Soul
artifact,
Ring. Oh no,
right?
they wanted a Soul Ring reprint on Twitter. I was like, good idea. That should be there should be the One Ring Soul Ring. But okay, 9 mana artifact.
yeah, 9
You
mana.
want a Ring of Marif instead.
Well, the One Ring has to be a Mindslaver effect, right?
That does
yeah.
make sense. Yeah. All right, there's
Oh,
this
right.
little gem too that came out in obviously Crimson Vow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think. Is that Crimson Vow?
I
or
don't
is
know.
that
There's so
something
many
else?
set symbols now.
It's probably the
Crimson Vow
Vow
Commander,
Commander,
right?
yeah.
Oh.
Or something. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, that about does it.
Here
for
we
this-
all are having burnout, trying to figure out which set of cards from.
That about does it for this episode of Tap Tap Concede. As a reminder, the nicknames are open for all will be one. Paul, could you remind me the name of the person?
Your
who
games be
does
over.
Your
Shout
games
out.
be over.
Shout out
Thank
to
you.
them.
I didn't shout them out at the beginning of the episode, but I'm shouting them out now. Thank you so much for the website. Please go in and submit your names, and then after submissions is over, then we're going to have voting. Because that means that the people who submit first don't get all the votes. We're trying to keep it as democratic as possible, which I know seems like a folly in this day and age, but we're doing our best. And yeah, so put in your nicknames. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by cardkingdom.com, a kingdom of cards, and by you from your kind support of our Patreon. Until next time, I've been Kathleen, and joining me was Cameron and Nelson.
I was also here.
Bye, everybody.